speech given at Faneuil Hall, Boston, on October 12, 1858. Having achieved your independence, having passed through the Confederation, you assented to the formation of our present constitutional union. You did not surrender your sovereignty. Your fathers had sacrificed too much to claim, as a reward of their toil, merely that they should have a change of masters. And a change of masters it would have been had Massachusetts surrendered her state sovereignty to the central government, and consented that the central government should have the power to coerce a state. But if this power does not exist, if this sovereignty has not been surrendered, then who can deny the words of soberness and truth spoken by your candidate this evening, when he has pleaded to you the cause of state independence and the right of a community to be judge of its own domestic affairs? In this state of the case, my friends, why is the country agitated? The old controversies have passed away, or they have subsided, and have been covered up by one dark pall of somber hue, which increases with every passing year. Why is it then, I say, that you are thus agitated in relation to the domestic affairs of other communities? Why is it that the peace of the country is disturbed in order that one people may judge of what another people may do? Is there any political power to authorize such interference? If so, where is it? You did not surrender your sovereignty. You gave to the federal government certain functions. It was your agent, created for special purposes. It can do nothing save what you have given it power to perform. Where is the grant? Has it a right to determine what shall be property? Surely not. That belongs to every community to decide for itself. You judge in your case. Every other state must judge in its case. The federal government has no power to destroy property. Do you pay taxes, then, to an agent, that he may destroy your property? Do you support him for that purpose? It is an absurdity on the face of it. To ask the question is to answer it. The government is instituted to protect, not to destroy property. And in the abundance of caution, your fathers provided that the federal government should not take private property for its own use unless making due compensation therefor. It is prohibited from attempting to destroy property. One of its great purposes was protection to the states. Whenever that power is made a source of danger, we destroy the purpose for which the government was formed. In connection with the view which I have presented of the early idea of community independence, I will add the very striking fact that one of the colonies, about the time that they had resolved to unite for the purpose of achieving their independence, addressed the Colonial Congress to know in what condition it would be in the interval between the separation from the government of Great Britain and the establishment of a government on this continent. The answer of the Colonial Congress was exactly what might have been expected, exactly what states' right democracy would answer today to such an inquiry, that they had nothing to do with it. If such sentiment had continued, if it had governed in every state, if representatives had been chosen upon it, then your halls of federal legislation would not have been disturbed about the question of domestic institutions of the different states. The peace of the country would not have been hazarded by the arraignment of the family relations of people over whom the government has no control. If in harmony working together, with co-intelligence for the conservation of the interests of the country, if protection to the states and the other great ends for which the government was established had been the aim and united effort of all, what effects would not have been produced? As our government increases in expansion, it would increase its beneficent effect upon the people. We should, as we grow in power and prosperity, also grow in fraternity, and it would no longer be a wonder to see a man coming from a southern state to address a Democratic audience in Boston. But I have referred to the fact that Massachusetts stood preeminently forward among those who asserted community independence. And this reminds me of another incident. President Washington visited Boston when John Hancock was governor, and Hancock refused to call upon the president because he contended that any man who came within the limits of Massachusetts must yield rank and precedence to the governor of the state. He eventually only surrendered to the point on account of his personal regard and respect for the character of George Washington. I honor him for this and value it as one of the early testimonies in favor of states' rights. I wish all our governors had the same regard for the dignity of the state as had the great and glorious John Hancock. In the beginning, the founders of this government were true democratic states' rights men. Democracy was states' rights, and states' rights was democracy, and so it is today. Your resolutions breathe it. The Declaration of Independence embodied the sentiments which had lived in the hearts of the country for many years before its formal assertion. Our fathers asserted the great principle, the right of the people to choose their own government, and that the government rest upon the consent of the governed. In every form of expression it uttered the same idea, community independence and the dependence of the Union upon the communities of which it consisted. It was an American declaration of the unalienable rights of man. It was a general truth, and I wish it were accepted by all men. But I have said that this state sovereignty, this community independence has never been surrendered, and that there is no power in the federal government to coerce a state. Will anyone ask me then how a state is to be held to the fulfillment of its obligations? My answer is, but its honor. The obligation is the more sacred to observe every feature of the compact, because there is no power to enforce it. The great error of the Confederation was that it attempted to act upon the states. It was found impracticable, and our present form of government was adopted, which acts upon individuals and is not designed to act upon states. The question of state coercion was raised in the convention which framed the Constitution, and after discussion, the proposition to give power to the general government to enforce against any state obedience to the laws was rejected. It is upon the ground that a state cannot be coerced that observance of the compact is a sacred obligation. It was upon this principle that our fathers depended for the perpetuity of a fraternal union and for the security of the right that the Constitution was designed to preserve.